and welcome to another episode of Data Lounge, where we take a more fun and relaxed approach to data. We have a very special guest with us today. She's an MVP, a famous star in the United Kingdom and beyond. It's a pleasure to have with us for this specific video, Miss Prathi Kamasani. Prathi, welcome to the Data Lounge.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. So we're going to be sharing with us today.
I'm going to talk about why storytelling is important, especially with Power BI.
Okay, good. Let's get started then.
Okay. All right. So first of all, before I talk about why I'm talking this topic, I would say, because we both come from pretty much same background, it's like we come from BI background.
Yes.
And most of the BI people are slowly transforming or actually doing Power BI as well.
Yep, true.
So when, like us, like data people, we don't actually pay much attention to the visuals. Do you pay much attention to the visuals when you're designing?
Well, if they look pretty, you're absolutely right. And for our audience out there, you might not notice it, but I'm really nervous right now because I'm sharing the stage with the star. Okay, so she knows her stuff, and I'm sure I'm going to make a couple mistakes. So, reality, not a lot.
Not at all.
No,
Exactly.
I just see the chart and it's pretty and it's there.
Yeah, that's what I see, because the people who come from data warehouse background, SSAS background, we don't pay much attention to the visualizations, and we don't pay the attention to the storytelling.
Correct.
And I personally, I like data and I love visualizations.
Okay.
So Power BI is a great tool for me, is because it combines both of them and it gives me opportunity to do the complex DAX and also some fun with the data visualizations.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going to teach you today.
All right.
And by the end of this session, you will be making some really good visuals.
That's great. We're in for it right then.
All right. So let me start with how actually visuals can lie. I'm going to give you some tricky questions now.
Okay.
So let me show you some examples.
Yeah.
Actually, before I say, that's the source from where I got all this visual from.
Okay.
And that the name itself talks a lot about it. It's viz.wtf. I'm not gonna say what it is. So, what do you think? You see this visual, and what can you see?
I would say that like less than half are large companies because there is the light blue color there.
Yeah.
And that's smaller. Yeah, we're 100%.
Yeah, but can you see? It actually doesn't add up with 100%.
Oh, that's true.
And the portion size is misleading you. And when you see visual like this, you obviously make a mistake.
Oh yes, that's absolutely right. I saw the large companies and I assumed, but I didn't link myself the 56% with the size of.
Yeah,
okay.
And you don't actually do the math when you have these two numbers in a big circle.
No.
You think it's 100%.
Yeah, I just assume it was 100%. Yeah, that's it. There is a 2% that is unexplained to me.
Yeah, and it's misleading.
Okay, good.
Oh, you already made one mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, so this visual, and especially in the Power BI has this conditional formatting. It's easy to put data bars and all those things, color formatting. And a visual like this, we can make this visual. What do you see in that visual that could be misleading us?
Wow, there are the black by ethnicity. It's the pregnancy deaths for black people and people greater than 40 is pretty much the same. They're big. Yeah.
But you're absolutely right there. That's what the visual is showing you. But actually, there is a lot of difference between those two numbers. But the data bar size is pretty much same. It's misleading you. And the other thing is like there is a lot of data.
Yes.
Like, there is a lot of information.
Yes.
And you don't actually pay attention to, you're not telling the story right. You're not specifying your point.
Okay.
I have one more one.
All right. I told you everybody I was going to make a lot of mistakes on this.
Well, I want you to make mistakes. And we haven't rehearsed this. Okay. So this one, what can you see there?
It's tiny. That missing thing at the end is like very, very small.
And we are highlighting it.
Yes.
Well, we don't know the whole story. But the difference is not actually, you don't see the entire difference very well. The main reason you don't see the entire difference very well is because the axis is starting at 250.
Oh, wow. Okay, yes, true.
Yeah, and
okay.
you don't actually pay attention to that. Okay, now let's, the same visual.
Ah, it's a different story.
Yeah, now it tells you.
Yes.
It actually explains it better.
Yeah.
And this is a very easily you can make these mistakes. And you know, it could be anything. It could be, these visuals could be telling a stock market value.
Yeah,
and you probably make wrong decision. Your report designs,
Wow.
your data visualization should be, it should show actionable results.
Yeah.
Not like wrong decisions.
Yes, and it was the previous one. I was like, okay, that last value in the chart is tiny. It's like
Yeah,
very, very
and
small.
also we shaded it blue, so like you know, it could be the whole story could be different, but like you know, without realizing, you pay attention there.
Yeah,
and which is not,
true.
yeah, which is not all. It's misleading you.
Okay, good.
So why? What happens there? Why it happens is because the science, the science behind the data visualizations.
Okay.
If we understand the science behind the data visualizations,
Yes.
and if we understand the science behind our human brain, we can actually create really nice visuals very quickly.
Okay.
So let's look at how our brain works. Have you came across a book called Thinking Fast and Slow?
Not really.
Oh, I would
No,
totally
haven't.
recommend that book.
Okay.
It's a really good book. So what
Okay.
the book says is there are two, like a system 1 and system 2.
Okay.
So system 1 is fast and system 2 is slow.
Okay.
And it's basically conscious and unconscious brain.
Okay.
Whenever you can tell your visuals with the unconscious brain, if you can see something, and if you can, that's what, when you're looking at our visuals something quickly, we always look at it from the unconscious brain point of view. For example, just look at this. What can you see? What is that you quickly see?
Someone is in panic or is trying to cut my attention. The other one is an equation of 270 something.
Yeah, so that's what it is. It's like a math is hard, but the
Okay.
stories are easy. But you can, there is no explanation or anything, but you can easily see somebody is like, you know, shouting or screaming or things like that. That is
Okay.
because it's your unconscious brain. You can easily see that.
Okay.
You don't have to do a lot of work.
Effort, yeah.
So that's what you need to do when you're designing your visuals as well, is like you need to show your user should not do all the maths and all the calculations and things
Okay.
like that. You have to let them decide most of the stuff by using system 1, and
Okay.
whenever they want to do with more detail, that's when they use the system 2.
Okay.
So that is the basic way when you have to look at it. And why? Because this is basically what it is. Like, you know, our human brain, we have iconic and short-term memory, the long-term memory.
Okay.
So if, as long as you pay attention to that, you can create some really nice visualizations. You always target the iconic memory. And 70% of our visual, like, you know, our human brain is actually used for the visual processing. It processes very well when you put a visual. It's a saying, like, you know, pictures speaks 1,000 words.
Yes.
So visualizations does the same thing.
It's very interesting, definitely, because for us more traditional, or people that have been in the industry a little bit, like some of our viewers might as well, we start working with tables and JSONs and those kind of structures. So we are very used to the very raw side of the data, right? To
Yeah.
run in select, top, 1,000, join, show me the table, that's it. But definitely it's a little bit scary how, and I'm old, right? I've been doing this for some time, as you and
So do I.
we've known each other for some time, and I just fell directly into the trap, right? If I take a look at the raw data, I see the number, but the visualization really tricked me.
And especially when you see the Power BI users and the Power BI, like, you know, stakeholders, most of them, they come from Excel world.
Yes.
Or like a database world.
Yes.
And when you speak your stakeholder, your customer, what they want is a really wide table.
Okay. Yes.
And
true.
it's
true.
It's like, you know, what are you getting out of it? It's like not much. Your visual should be telling you what action you need to take.
Okay.
Your dashboard should tell you, like, you know, if this is the sales, you need to tell it. It should tell you that.
Okay.
It's not like you need to do more processing and do more things to actually get the result back.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
that is the it's a bit of science behind the visualizations.
Okay.
And also like, you know, when you're designing the visuals, is like have you come across Gestalt's principles?
I've heard a lot of the Power BI people talking about it. But I'm like, Gestalt, that sounds a little bit German, but not paid a lot of attention. I have a few libraries to take care of, not Gestalt necessarily.
But I think what Gestalt's principles are not actually for the data visualization, it's for the entire user experience.
Oh, wow.
What I say is you see user experience everywhere.
Yes.
Just by opening the door.
Yeah.
There is a really good book called Design of Everyday Things. It's a book by Norman. What he says is how many times people make a mistakes by instead of pushing and pulling the door. It's because it's a bad design.
Okay.
It's if you keep a handle where you need to push the door, that's a bad design. You should you should not place a handle there. Then you don't push it.
Yeah, true.
You don't pull it, you just push it. Yes. So it's you see design everywhere, single where. So that's basically, and most of the designing is based on Gestalt's principles. If you actually, once you know the principles, you will you will look at it from that perspective.
Okay.
Let me actually show you something.
Okay, let's take a look.
So what do you see from this one?
Oh, that's a triangle.
Yeah. It's a triangle. Well, my slides are a bit slow. But there are some missing objects, but still you can see it's a triangle. As a human, we have that. It's it's kind of, that's how optical illusion and everything starts. And basically that's what all about Gestalt's principles. That's what he talks about mostly. So, and these principles helps a lot when it comes to data visualization.
Okay.
And while you're designing your reports or while you're designing your dashboards, if you pay attention to these principles, you can create some really nice visuals. Okay. So let's look at some of these principles and see how they are related to the data visualizations.
Okay.
So what we have is few dots here.
Yes.
Okay. And now I colored each, every other one. Yeah. And what you see is you straight away, when I ask you, you say, okay, there are two types.
Yes.
One is gray and the other one is red. That is a similarity. Okay. So when you're doing your visualization as well, if you think put the similar things in the same color.
Yes.
Instead of just adding color, just actually use the principle similarity. That way when you're designing, your user also, it's convenient.
We perceive the same.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's the principle similarity says. And then we have the proximity.
Okay.
It's so before you saw two types.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Even now you see two types.
Yes.
But your types are changed.
Yes.
Because there is a gap.
Correct. True.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
So when you're designing your report, instead of putting all the visuals next to each other, if one visual is showing something, and for example, one visual is showing sales and the other visuals are talking about products and stuff, separate them, give a decent gap between those two, then you're telling a better story.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Okay, makes sense.
How many times we saw visuals?
Oh yeah, I put everything all together.
Exactly. It's a completely cluttered.
Yes. Yes.
But
Guilty.
Yeah. I know.
Guilty.
But actually, if you use the white space you have on your canvas, it helps you massively.
Okay.
So that is the proximity.
Okay, proximity.
And then comes the enclosure.
Okay.
So now if you actually group them, so I'm grouping those and I'm grouping these things. So now you actually look at those as two groups.
Correct.
Maybe when it comes to the group designing, just add a background behind it.
Okay.
So in a way you are actually making groups.
Okay.
Or just add a border around your visuals. So that way you are making the group.
Okay.
So that tells the better story is instead of just throwing everything on the reporting canvas, adding a bit of grouping and naming them, giving them labels, all these things actually tells a better storytelling.
Okay.
And the next thing is revelation, if I say it right. So even though if you have the space, but now me adding those borders, even now you see two types again.
Yes, correct.
But your thing is different. If you compare to the from the beginning to here, because now I have a border including the space.
Yes.
You see it differently.
I see what I'm seeing right now is there are two groups, out of which the one to the left has a different structure grouping. Like there are two subgroups within the one to the left compared to the one to the right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is all these principles actually when you're designing your reports, like, even though if you add a bit of space,
Yes.
but if those two visuals are telling a different story, then maybe add a border around it. And see how user can actually see those visuals and think what user could see from this perspective.
I have to say that all these principles you're talking about, and our audience and our viewers probably don't know this, but every time, if you ever go to any Power BI event, or if you have the chance to see any of the sessions that Prati does and participates as a speaker, you feel awful every time you see one of Prati's sessions because her reports are like perfect, beautiful. I say, how can she do that? And now
that's it. I don't do anything. It's just like I always refer back to this. It's like it's just using the space, white space, grouping, and where I'm adding the border and all those things. These are the very basic principles. And it's not like it's not only data visualization. It could apply to everything. It's like even I say this, like when you go outside, if you're coming to office, and if your chairs are everywhere, then obviously it looks clutter. So this is a very good example. A friend of mine told me is like people who come from the data, BI world, we think, oh, DAX is amazing. I love DAX. Data modeling is amazing. And we don't pay much attention to the data visualization.
True.
But you need to, he gave me the example of car. Like, if you're buying a car, you look at the engine, how good it is, what is the performance of it, and you also look at how it looks.
True. Yes.
And you get in the car and you have a dashboard.
Yes.
If you have to click one button and click another button,
do you like that?
Exactly. So you want all your buttons there.
Yes.
So that's exactly what it is, the report designer. So you have a dashboard. Then if you're creating a dashboard for the CEO,
yes, of course,
your CEO doesn't like to click 3 times to get the figure.
Yes.
You should show the value there.
Yeah.
So you have to think about your audience. What is your goal? How are you going to deliver your reports? And all these principles are what helps you design those.
I'm definitely stealing the car analogy, particularly because I don't drive. I'm a disaster on the road. And yes, your point is absolutely valid. We have a couple common friends that happen to like DAX a lot for individual reasons that they might be biased towards the language.
Well, I love DAX,
But yes, it's true. Many of us don't pay attention to this, right? And the impact is, and we've just seen it here with a very simple chart that you have, right? With these simple visualizations, the impact of these basic principles on how it can affect your perception is absolutely shocking.
That's true. And I have like a few more of this.
It's
like this also impacts by using the size. Now, because you have the size, again, it comes to when you're designing your visuals, remember the size. And because size tells a story as well. So now you see you have different sizes. Again, you see 2 groups. But your groups change now. Probably now you see 4 groups. Like some of them are in the same size and the colors. Size and the color, those 2 matters now. And the other thing it also matters is the fate. Common fate. So for example, the same things, if you look at this, now you see the 2 groups. And they both are going in the different direction. So now you don't actually pay any attention to the colors. What you see is the common fate, which direction they are going. I'll give you an example.
Let's take a look at that.
You have this visual here. Okay. When I give you this visual, what do you see? I mean, I'm not going to explain much about it. Which 2 categories are doing same? That could be one answer you see.
I think probably there is the more bluish greenish one and the black one are going up. Definitely. And the other one, the red one, is going down. That's immediately. So there are 2. The ones growing, the ones falling. That's basically
and
what
that's
I see.
what you see. And you probably basically make your action. Immediately what you see, our red is going down. blue and, well, whatever the color
Black,
was, so
it's
black,
blackish.
it's going in one direction,
Yeah.
and the red is going in the other direction.
Yeah.
It's showing a fate,
Yes,
right?
okay.
And you immediately, if you're more worried about going down, then you probably start making action on the red.
Yes, correct.
But what you don't notice, there is a bend on the gray one.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, but we don't notice that because they're going in one direction. You just think like, okay, that's what happening. You don't actually. So this is what it is about system 1 and system 2.
Okay.
It's like
It's more immediate reaction. It's like the red's going down. What's
you gonna do? You immediately click on it or go to do another report and see what's happening. You completely ignore that one.
Okay.
So these, like, when you're designing, these are the things that you need to pay attention because your visuals, most of the times your visual tells some really important things.
Okay.
And the other thing is the focal point. And this is what I talk about using the color as well.
Okay.
It's like, many times, like even as you said, what do you think about the data visualizations? They're pretty.
Yeah.
And like it's the same thing. What do you think about color? Is it adds colors to my reports?
Yes.
But actually, color is not just to add color. Color is to tell the story.
Okay.
It is to highlight the specific point.
Okay.
Now, if you look at this, it's definitely highlighting that specific point.
Clearly.
By using the color.
Yes.
And it's not only the color which highlights the specific point, but you can also highlight by using the size.
Okay.
So when you design your reports, you use color and the size to highlight the specific point.
Okay.
So these are the things like, you need to remember when you're designing.
Because we start with, and every time when I have the chance to do some Power BI demos as well, the first thing I go, or when we deliver trainings, right, is look, you can put colors, and then you put red, yellow, blue all together, and sizes, and change the sizes of the bars and the categories and the axes, and we go on the formatting pane. But we really don't invest a lot of time on thinking what should it be doing.
Yeah. Shall we use this palette or not?
Yes, correct.
These things, it's like most of the times it's just like, okay, I'm going to put this visual so it adds some color to my visual.
Correct. It's mostly make it shiny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But that's not what. It is to highlight the specific point. And Stephen Few has an amazing article about it. It's like and that's where the conditional formatting in Power BI and all those things comes very handy.
Okay.
So when you're telling this story, these are Gestalt's principles are like, amazing principles to believe in and follow when you're designing the story, when you're telling your story with the data. And you can actually create some really nice visuals.
Really interesting.
So, and most of the times is like, you don't have to do much. Well, there is this saying, again, from the Norman, it says it's like, other than you want to be popular, don't do a bad design.
Okay.
But good design also speaks out.
Okay.
So this is something I showed in last week. I was presenting in Belgium, and I was talking about the design tips and tricks, and many people actually appreciates good design.
Yes.
So it's like a good design always speaks out automatically, and also your users will be very thankful to you for design, for telling the good story.
And many business users actually, when they are faced with seeing a super cluttered report with something cleaner, better design, the reaction is fantastic. You may have exactly the same data. And of course, we're not talking data quality, right? That's a more traditional infrastructure platform data mashup problem. But only from the visual perspective, if they see a report that is more carefully designed, the reaction and the speed at which they can comprehend that information is absolutely different.
Yeah. And I think if you ask me, I mean, this is something I said, I do the training, Power BI training, and I asked people, what do you think a good design you have seen recently that changed everything? Okay. What do you think? It could be anything. A thing, a product,
I think very easily, probably one of the best designs I have seen is these specific laptops, right? They're thought on terms of weight, they're thought in terms of a screen, how you reach the different key. It's very interesting to see.
Yeah, actually laptops are a very good example. And I said iPhone is the best
Yes, yes.
It's because
correct.
like once iPhone launched, it's like entire mobile technology.
The whole industry changed. Absolutely,
everything
yes, the whole
changed,
industry
and
changed.
it's because it's a very good design.
Okay.
My 2 years old without any booklet or anything can totally use iPhone.
Okay.
And my aunt who never went to school in India, she could use iPhone.
Oh yes, the senior relatives are a full story with technology without a doubt.
But it's a good design.
Okay.
Why? Is because it's a good design. When you create a good design, it speaks itself. You don't have to provide a book.
A massive.
And
okay.
the same thing comes to the reports as well. Okay. When you design a good report, then you don't need to provide a documentation along with it. And many times, like, you don't need, report should explain itself.
Okay.
That's the good report. So for the summary out of my session, I hope you learned a lot.
I have absolutely.
But what my summary of this session is like steal like an artist.
Okay.
So as I said, everywhere there is a design.
Okay.
And I say nature is the best design. I don't know if you can actually see this plant on the screen, but like there is a palette here.
Yeah, it's true.
And you can use it.
It is.
It's actually BP or like, many organizations has that palette.
Yes.
So steal from everywhere.
Okay.
And keep it simple.
Okay.
Don't put everything in one report. Keep it simple, keep it minimal, and use the white space.
That is a very big one. That is a very big one. We tend to, there is white space. I can fit one more visual here.
Can I just put one more thing there? No, just keep it simple. Minimalism is the best.
Okay.
And add color to highlight, add color to tell the story.
Not just for the sake of it.
Just not for the sake of it, exactly.
Okay.
And gray is your best friend. For me, it's like, again, this is something I read somewhere, I don't know exactly where. It's like you don't actually need any color to tell something. And this is what photography and like artists follow as well. Just by using black and white, you can tell the story.
Okay.
And it's like black and white, and you get gray in between.
Yes.
And you just use those three colors, and you can tell a really good story with that.
Okay.
You can create amazing painting with that. So it's the same thing comes with the report design as well. So that's why don't just add color. And
for the sake of it.
Yeah, whenever you want to highlight something, just put everything in gray and add that little bit of color wherever you want to highlight. Just always remember the audience as well. But like I don't follow that rule. I love color for too much. Yeah, don't come to me and say, why do you have so much color on your...
I've got my own rule. So.
Yeah. That's just a summary for this session. Don't expect that from me. And grid layout is...
Grid layout.
Just use the grid layout when you're designing your reports.
Okay.
And most of the times, having a grid layout, it amazingly transforms your reports. Okay. And it makes it look really sleek.
Just drag and drop on.
Yeah, but when you're using the grid layout, make sure it has a shape, like, how you're grouping, how you're doing things. That way, it helps, it just makes your reports really sleek.
Okay.
And this is something I saw on the Twitter again today, is what is important, data modeling or the data visualizations. I want to end this session on saying this. Data visualizations and the data modeling, they complement each other. They have to go hand in hand. So one is not better with the other one. They both have to be good. Then only your user will be happy.
Yeah. So, fantastic. Thank you very much. So Prati, thank you very much for joining us today on the Data Lounge. And a special thanks to all of you watching us from wherever you might be watching. If you like this, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much and hope to see you on our next video. And once again, thank you very much to our rock star. We don't get to have these kind of rock stars in every one of our videos. So thank you very much, Prati.
Thank you.
And now I'm never going to write the report again. Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you.